Potion Explosion, a game by Cool Mini or Not that I picked up at Django in 2016. In this game, the players play the role of students of magic school that are learning to create awesome potions. So we have a sort of like Harry Potter type of theme paired with mechanics that can make one think of the game as Candy Crush, the board game, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but the mechanics definitely are reminiscent of that famous game. Especially when you look at this awesome component here, which may look a little gimmicky and may even be a gimmick, but it's still pretty fun to use. This is a game that does use marbles, so it is a game that we play on the floor. I played it with my daughter Amelia, who is 6, my daughter Louisa, who is 4. So we played on the floor because if you play on the table, I already know that we spend a lot of time getting up and going around the room looking for the marbles that fell from the table. If you were just playing it on the floor, then we would spend a lot of time running after marbles that roll around the room and go and disappear under the couch. So we played on the floor and on a blanket. This way the marbles don't roll too much. Now, here you have the area, the component of the game where the players collect the ingredients that they will use to make their potions, but we also need to figure out how to make the potions, and to do so you need recipes. You have stacks of these components here representing the bottles where you will place the potions that you create. On one side you have the recipe, and there's the side that you see here. On the other side you have the potion when the potion is complete, so you put this side face up when you have completed the potion. Now there are various types of potions, and you do not use every type in every game, so you have a lot of variety there, because based on the potions that you include and the ones that you do not include, there will be different types of effects that will be available to the players. That is always fun. But once you have determined the potions that you're going to use, you're going to shuffle them, you're going to give each player 2 starting potions, and then you're going to place the remaining potions in stacks like the ones that you see here. Each potion, looking at the recipe side, has of course color bands with holes representing slots where you need to place ingredients of the corresponding color. For example, to complete this potion we need 4 black ingredients and 4 yellow ones. Here's the number which represents the number of victory points that the potion is worth at the end of the game if completed. And here you have an icon indicating the special ability, a special effect that the potion can trigger once it has been completed and when it has been drunk. When you complete a potion, you place it by your play area with the cork indicating that direction, pretty much face up. Well, not face up, but upwards. And that's it. You place it there and you will score it and score the number of points at the end of the game. You can also use it as a one-time benefit to drink the potion. You rotate it this way. You still get to score it at the end of the game, but by rotating it you simply mark the fact that you used its effect, its one-time effect, and you cannot use it again. And we'll talk about the effects later. Now, during your turn, you will take one basic action, which is to remove a marble from this dispenser here. When you remove a marble, if by removing it you cause 2 marbles of the same color to collide, like in that case, you also collect all of the marbles of that color that are adjacent to the ones that collide. It's a complicated thing to say. In this case, I get to grab those 2 yellow ones. And in this case, after I do so, look at the black marbles. We also had a collision between black marbles that were not adjacent to one another before. Then we also got to collect these, and that's it. There weren't other collisions that were triggered by it. Thematically, this is a chain of explosions that you trigger. I don't know why explosions in the drawer where the ingredients in Magic School are would be beneficial. Why would that help you to gain more ingredients? Maybe you're producing fumes that then you use. Whatever, the theme is not necessarily the most important part here. So after you picked up your marble and you use all of the explosions, you will have a bunch of marbles in your hand. Where do you put them? On your work table. Each player has a player in, such as this one, where you will place the 2 potions that you're working on. You always have 2 that are active at any given time. Let's say that we have these ones that we are working on right now. So the marbles that you collected, you need to place them in slots of the corresponding color if possible. If those slots are available, you need to place them there. In this case, I place all of these marbles there. And that's it, I'm good to go. Suppose that actually we have also some marbles in our hand that we cannot fit. I can fit this one here, but then I have this one that does not fit. Then here we have a pool where you must place the marbles that you cannot place. However, they are your pool, they are reserves, so you can use them later and transfer them from here to ongoing projects. When you complete a potion, like we have in that case, then you remove all the marbles that are on it, you dump them back into the dispenser, and when we play, this is the job that my 4-year-old performs. Pretty much is myself and my 6-year-old are playing the game, and the 4-year-old is sitting by the dispenser waiting for us to handle the ingredients after the potion is completed. And so she dumps them in to reload the dispenser. Once a potion is completed, you flip it on this side, every side, you place it there. Now the effect is available, and then you simply grab another recipe and you start over. As we said, the potions have various effects. For example, this potion allows you to transfer marbles from your reserve to one of your recipes without really worrying about the color, basically making a mistake, placing it where it doesn't usually belong. This one allows you to grab 2 adjacent marbles from the board that are a different color. This one allows you to grab marbles from the bottom row. So you have various effects that work differently, and sometimes they're just good. They give you some resources, but in most cases you will want to use those effects before you take your standard action of grabbing a marble. Basically, you're using those actions to set things up for you so that when you take your standard action, you trigger some chains of explosions. Because the golden rule here is that, yes, there will be game effects that will allow you to take marbles from the board, but unless it is in your standard action, they do not trigger explosions. So if I'm grabbing a marble simply because an effect allows me to, like in this case, this simply says, well, take a marble from the board, then I take it, but I do not trigger explosions. Again, golden rule. Many effects of this kind, and you continue like this, turn after turn, collecting ingredients, making potions, and using the effects of the potions. You can also take an extra action that allows you to remove an extra marble, but again, golden rule, when you take that extra action, which is called asking for help from the professor, you do not trigger explosions. Also, when you take that action, you have to take this marker that counts as a penalty, -2 points at the end of the game. But again, this makes sense if you're setting the dispenser in a certain way that will allow you later to score a lot of points, to grab a lot of important resources. The first time, the first time, but then also next times that you complete 3 potions of a kind, as identified by the quirk and by the art. When you complete 3 potions of a kind, you get one of these medals, one of these badges that are worth 4 points at the end of the game. You also get one of these medals when you have 5 potions of 5 different types. So we have 5 different types of potions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, actually here also 1, 2. Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you have 5 potions of a different one that are different from one another, you also grab one of these badges. And of course, it may perfectly be that you achieve both conditions by adding a single potion, in which case, if the potion that you completed gives you both 3 of a kind and a set of 5, you grab 2 badges. Now, there is a limited number of such badges, and the number depends on the number of players. When the last available badge is being assigned, that triggers the end of the game. Players still take turns to ensure that everybody took exactly the same number of turns. And at that point, the game is over. You add together all of the points that are granted by potions that were completed, plus 4 points for each such budget, penalty of -2 for each such token. And after you total all the points, the player with the highest total is the winner of the game. This is a game that I wanted to try because I thought that my daughter Amelia, who is 6, would enjoy it. The game looks good, it has that gimmick there that is very attractive for children. There's a certain visceral aspect in pulling the marbles, seeing the other ones, rolling, getting more marbles, and triggering more things. I thought it could be a fun game that I would play with my children. I did not expect it to be maybe much more than that, much more than a children family game, past that in terms of gameplay. And I was actually wrong. I was pleasantly surprised when gameplay turned out to be much more captivating than I expected from the presentation. The presentation, visually speaking, component-wise, is great. This is a game with excellent components. The gimmick, the dispenser, however, one thing, tends to fall apart quite easily, especially after you load it. Do not try to lift it up. It will simply fall apart. The weight of the marbles will make the bottom fall. And actually, I glued the elements of my component, of my dispenser, so that will not fall apart anymore. Use super glue, it's fine. Also, the box is large enough that you can store it, in fact, without having to take it apart. So I recommend also that you glue your own copy, unless you want to put it together every time that it falls apart. But visually, it looks very good. Those marbles are fun to play with. Gameplay wise, as said, it's much more interesting than I expected. Gameplay, the beginning, yes, the beginning is pretty obvious because there aren't any effects that you can trigger. You're looking for red and blue, then you look on the board when you find a spot where you can pull a blue and trigger a red explosion, or vice versa. Or maybe it's 4 red, so you simply take one out and you grab the other ones in the process too. So it's pretty obvious and straightforward. Things become more interesting when you have more potions, and then it's not just a matter of seeing where the interesting ingredients, the resources are, but creating the conditions. Then you decide, should I use this effect now and move that marble so then I can use that other effect, and maybe I add the help from the professor, I get a penalty, da da da. Then that starts becoming much more interesting when you have the option of creating situations and using resources, very limited resources, to create situations that will allow you to score more. Then the turns become more interesting. I use an effect, I create a certain condition, I trigger a couple of resources, I complete a potion, I place it on the side, I see whether or not I want to use that new effect. A lot of interesting things happen, and the gameplay definitely becomes more interesting. There's also a couple of other elements that are not complicated mechanically, but they do add some interesting elements. For example, the fact that you can score certain sets of 3 or of the same type, or 5 of different types. Then you can go for potions that have low value, that are also easier to complete, and those are ideal, of course, to form sets, but there are potions that are worth like 10, 11 points each, but that are much harder to put together, so it takes longer, so you're less likely to be the player that completes those sets if you concentrate on the potions that take long and have higher value. So actually, you may also have situations where you're ahead because you were able to score a couple of those, and then all of a sudden you go for the cheap and fast ones because you want the game to end so that you can end it before the opponent catches up. So actually, in the selection of the potions, there are interesting elements there. you start seeing that there are interesting elements, not just in picking up the things that you need, but also messing up the board a little bit for the next player or players by taking away some resources that they obviously need, because you look at the board and you see easily clearly what it is that they want, and it would be great if you could take away from them. At the same time, the game doesn't feel too confrontational. If I use a certain effect that removes marbles from the bottom of the dispensers, put them back on top, so it will be a while before they will be available. Maybe they'll be available in a different configuration, which is less profitable for next player. All this does affect the chances of the next player to complete something that they're trying to accomplish, but it's not as direct and confrontational. It's not take that, it's not in your face type of thing. So this is a game that is competitive and that does allow you to get in other players' ways, but it's not particularly confrontational. So it can work as a play with your spouse type of game. It can work again as a family game, gateway game. I played with my daughter Amelia, who enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed playing the game. I really enjoyed the design. Its simplicity is remarkable. The visceral, almost physical aspect, the tactile aspect of playing with those marbles is definitely fun, and yet at the same time there were a couple of interesting nuances there. It doesn't make it the deepest design that there is out there, but I would say you have the kind of like nice range of possibilities, nice range of options that you have in other good gateway games, like Ticket to Ride. Levels of complexity, level of affordances, level of things that you can do reminded me somehow of Ticket to Ride. While mechanically and thematically they're very different, I would say the overall level of gameness, the density of game that you have in there is somehow in the range of Ticket to Ride. So I still found it to be a pretty pleasant, enjoyable game. With the Candy Crush aspect there, you can attract the first players. It's kind of like Candy Crush. You play that stupid app, right? So why don't you come and play a game? And before you know it, those players that started playing board games with you are gonna play Ticket to Ride, and in 2 weeks from now, who knows, some complex Forest games or something. That's what a gateway is for. It's not the end of a path, but it's the beginning of an amazing journey. Potion Explosion may be the beginning of such journey for some of your friends if you pick up a copy and you expose them to this game. Entertaining and fun. I love it as a two-player game. I do not know, however, how well it would work with 3 or 4. I'm afraid that with a higher count of players, then things can become very chaotic and difficult to predict. Then, by the time the situation, the turn goes back to you, things may be completely crazy, completely different from how you left them. Most likely that will be the case, and it becomes very random based, very based on reacting to what is given to you rather than planning ahead. With 2 players, you don't play much, you don't plan much ahead, but a little bit you can, and there is fun in doing so. It can be rewarding. So with more players, so definitely will be a high level of randomness. Also, if you have more than 2 players and those players take the game way too seriously, more than they should, then I guess you can have a problem analysis paralysis when players start using several effects, chaining effects, and thinking about every effect, trying to maximize what really is something that has a lot of randomness, so should not be thought of in terms of min-max. Then I guess that the game may drag a little too much and the pace may be affected by that. But as a 2-player game, as a game that you do not have to take too seriously, but yet can still be rewarding to play, to enjoy, and to think about in terms of some strategy. Again, don't overthink it, but think about it. Think about your strategy. You'll find yourself entertained. You find yourself getting along with the design. Design that is very light, very simple, but has enough meat there to definitely entertain a casual gamer or a new gamer without overwhelming them. But there is enough to it, I believe, also for experienced gamers that are okay with playing a simpler game from time to time. Potion Explosion. It looks great. The presentation is excellent. Family game, play with your spouse game, gateway game. Nothing too complex, heavy, or deep, but entertaining game nevertheless.